now. All right, it looks
Okay.
like we are live now. Excellent. Yeah. So what's up? Check it out. It's your boy DGL7. As you know, I interview activists from all over. But today, now the thing is that there's a lot of different activists that I'm super excited to work with. But this activist right here, I'm gonna go into a little bit more so you guys can find out. But I'm very, very interested in this particular activist for a number of reasons. This activist crossed over into multiple things that I do. This activist has actually a history of activism that goes back quite significantly. So, Nicole over here will have intelligent things to say going back into the past. We've also messed around in the socialist, communist. You seem to be in that realm, so that's quite interesting as well. So, first of all, I just want to share with my audience this is a special interview, and don't overlook this particular producer. They may only have 200, 300 subscribers right now, but the thing is that, right, there's a lot of whack agendas that are pushing, right, certain people that haven't earned their place. But this is someone who has decades of activism experience, has been producing material for a long time. This is someone that that needs to be paid attention to. So this is a very special interview. I hope that everybody really pays attention. I want you to know this is something that I put the shirt on special for this interview. That's how important I think this interview is. I know the trans community is controversial somewhat, and people are gonna be. I'm probably getting knocked from both sides. People from the trans community will be like edge whack. Probably people from the people that are attacking the trans community will be like edge whack for a number of reasons off this interview. But we're gonna cover the realness. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Ash, before I get too deep, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Introduce yourself to my audience. Go ahead.
So, my name is ComradeRedPagan. I also go by RedPagan Nicole. Um, I am a trans Marxist activist and YouTuber, and I post a lot of content that I self-describe on my Twitter bio as educating the masses, purging reactionaries. Basically, it's the whole concept of just trying to um, better explain Marxism and trying to write a lot of misconceptions that people have about the trans community and communism and things like that. And essentially, why I think uh, why I think that communism would be a better alternative, or why the path towards revolutionary socialism to communism. And yeah, I have been doing this for about going on, I think, about 11, 12 years now.
Okay. Earlier you talked about just trying to get all the. There's a lot of labels out there. So the thing is that earlier you said purging reactionaries. You said you define yourself as a communist, right? But then there's a lot of different communists. What is a reaction? First of all, what is a reactionary? You say you're out there purging reactionaries. What is a reactionary?
So reactionary can often be used with interchangeably with fascists, and usually it's anybody that holds a very right wing view, especially a very far right wing view. People that typically are very homotransphobic, people that are super nationalistic, super like right, ultra conservative, people that essentially um, do not believe in any sort of progress. They are the very traditionalist, fundamentalist sort of group. This often includes individuals of the extreme right wing Christians. For instance, like there's a video I'm actually releasing this coming week about a guy named Chris Leduc that's based out of Cannon Beach, Oregon, and he is one of those typical fundamentalist Baptist ministers who believes that gay people and trans people are an abomination and that they ought to, and all that sort of stuff. So as an example, those are people that would be considered reactionaries, people that do not believe in any form of like progress at all. They'd rather essentially us all live under essentially Handmaid's Tale.
Okay.
So yeah.
We're gonna get to some of those some of the LGBTQ stuff like in a moment, right? But for right now, I'm really focusing on the political stuff just to understand where that is. I would also agree in my understanding of the term reactionary. There's usually a dichotomy or a list of like from far left to far right, and usually the what is it? The reactionaries, just as a term, is placed on the far right, and the versus revolutionaries are on the far left. So but not everybody has the same definition. So now we also have the term communism. There are also said you're communist and a Marxist at that. There's also different forms of you know, and so you said you're a Marxist. Interesting because a lot of people say they're Marxist-Leninists,
Mhm.
but you're saying you're straight Marxist. There's another guy who actually went in an alternate direction from Lenin to try to get like everybody else involved. I think he's kind of cool. What's his name again? I forgot the name exactly. You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
I believe that you might be referring to Trotsky. Yeah.
No, there's someone else before Trotsky. There was some other one who got eliminated. But Trotsky is another interesting figure. Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
actually a Marxist communist. What is a communist? How is it different from socialist? What
So
is that? Yeah.
so I definitely would describe myself as a Marxist Leninist. I just often shortchange it to Marxist because it's just easier. Um, but as far as socialism goes, socialism is the revolutionary transition state between the capitalist state and the communist state, and basically, um, the idea is that you have, you know, per a lot of the Marxist theory, even Leninist theory, is that there is often a violent revolution that overthrows the capitalist system, and the bourgeois democracy, that and you establish a socialist state, and that is what a lot of what that's what the USSR was. That's what China was for us, up until Mao's death. And That's how a lot of these states that were under Marxist Leninist leaders, like Castro, as an example, those were all socialist states. No state has actually gotten all the way to communism, as communism would be the stateless, classless, moneyless society in which the idea of essentially the state, and essentially any sort of form of centralized government would no longer be necessary, and where everybody is, treated as equal. Everybody, no one has to want for anything. No, no one is above one another. Like,
I
there's no.
appreciate that. Yeah, and I would say that this is a
Yeah.
very standard, look at socialism and communism as in terms of the framework. This is something that's been said for a long time, and I appreciate that. Right? There's a lot of new people pushing out new ideas, new frameworks, and things are always changing. But
Yeah.
I would say this is a classicist view of the socialism, communism dichotomy now. So I have my own questions about that, but I just want to make sure that I understand you as an individual yourself, right? So
Yeah.
now that we've covered your idea of socialism and communism, you also mentioned Trotskyism for a second. Wait. Okay, well, I just want to touch on that for a second. You said you're Marxist-Leninist. Does that mean, and you're not a Trotskyist, or are you also partly Trotskyist? How does that fit into the whole thing?
No, I don't view myself as a Trotskyist. Often, there's Trotskyists. It's not like they're not considered to be like bad or anything within our community, but it's just that we do technically have slight disagreements on certain things. Um,
Wait, can I
you
just
know,
ask something real
typically,
quick? What is our community? Are you part of the Communist Party USA? Are you part of the Larouchians? Are you part of your own
oh
like
God,
little
no,
subset? I don't know.
no, I
So
am.
what is our right? Who? Because there's a lot of different people saying they represent communism. What is our group? Who's right? Yeah.
So I'm part of a I'm part we consider ourselves part of a larger, like the larger Marxist community, but that would be people that, for instance, I'm not part of any political party as of right now, but I am, but there is another YouTuber I actually um, follow, and is a certain group of YouTubers I follow. One being Jason Unruh, also known as the Maoist Rebel News.
Heard of them?
I am I'm also a follower, a fellow traveler of Danky Kang, that sort of grouping of people. Um, so we are the people that are. I sometimes use the word contemporary Marxist to kind of because we believe in a lot of the standard Marxist Leninist values, but we also recognize that intersectionality is a thing, and that socialism, like any philosophy, any science, expands and it grows over time, and that essentially, if you don't adapt to the world and society that we live in, you're going to end up, finding yourself kind of left to history. And not only that, if you don't update, your viewpoints and stuff like that over time, then yeah,
Yeah.
then the
Marxism might have
whole
been dead a long time. New technologies
yeah.
come out, new challenges. Absolutely. It has to be ongoing.
Yeah, even Mao and Ho Chi Minh and Castro, even they had to adapt to the certain you know situations that they were facing in their modern time, or even more specifically in their own countries, because it varies from era to era and country to country.
Okay, so what's your understand? Because like I have my own understanding. Just I'll give you guys a little bit of my background of the whole socialist movement stuff like that. So the fact of the matter is that I'm actually 45, maybe old 46. I don't really keep track. I'm around that age, mid 40s. And I started back in activism back when I was like maybe 19, 18, stuff like that. Right, got to college. I was free on my own, and I saw some signs right hanging up at the bus stop. It was like if you want to fight against this racist stuff or help the workers and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. That's something I want to do. So the first organization that got wrapped up with, not because I had like really strong tie to their ideology, which overall the idea was cool, right? But it wasn't like I saw workers roll on a lot of the front lines, right, selling the paper and stuff. I'm not anti them either, right? Yeah, they were just other people that was around. But at my school, the only people that was there was this group called ISO, International Socialist Organization. And it was
Yeah,
supposed to be a Trotskyist organization. And I didn't really understand. Like, I was like, what? So sometimes I would sit in. We would usually actually, sorry to say this, right? Not you, okay? I think there's been a change. Back in my day, we used to look, and just in my area, I don't know how things were in other places, but we would look down on the Marxists because we called them armchair activists because we were the only ones going out to events like fighting for this shit. And but there was only like two Marxist guys, right? Yeah, they were like college guys and they were just sitting at the chairs all day. They're like, you go to the protests. It doesn't matter. And we're like, yeah, it matters, right? Yeah. So like you might have rocked with us. I don't know, right? Yeah. So look, the
yeah,
Marxists, it was only two guys because that's how small the community was. I was in Buffalo. Man, I don't know how things over where you are. I know you're not from New York City. New York City, oh my God, there's so many people. Thank God. Yeah. It's easy to find a community. Um,
yeah.
how about you? Is there a communist community where you are? Four or
I
five
mean,
guys maybe get together?
there's a few people. I don't know if they're still active anymore, but there was a group. I think it was called like the Youth Liberation Front or whatever, that was had a bit of some activity in Portland, kind of just a little before the George Floyd protest and during, but I don't know if they still exist anymore.
Okay.
I know that there are varying people of different backgrounds, both
We're gonna
religiously, politically, and yeah,
we're gonna dig
and
into that, but I want to actually cover this ideological thing. So you know
yeah,
what I mean, and like hash out what this communism versus socialism versus anarchism or these other things, right? I think
yeah,
unrooted has some ties to anarchism as well. So I'm just trying to like understand your whole movement here as much as I can, right? So the thing
yeah,
is that I was in this group called ISO, and I'll tell you what got the whole entire Buffalo branch kicked out of ISO. So the thing is that, right? We were there going to events, and we were like the only people out there, right? Yeah, in Buffalo, right? Yeah, which was, I mean, for ISO, right? Once we meet like other
yeah,
labor leaders, elected officials, fighting for environmental stuff. We met Green Party people, that was cool. We met Workers World, right? Sometimes at events. Not that we had beef with them, right? But they would actually go out to events, right? Yeah, we saw the Marxists at our school, and we'd be like, "Come out with us," and they'd be like, "No." But anyways, like I'm mad at them. Yeah, like you seem cool as hell, to tell you the truth, right? Yeah, you're out there doing stuff. But the thing is
yeah,
that so the thing is that we went to the national East Coast convention and we went to the national convention. When we went to the East Coast convention, we saw there was like a lot of rich folks who were kind of like running the thing, But we just thought they were cool. We just thought New York City was rich. You know, I mean, we were from Buffalo. We were like a working class town, destroyed like economically. So we came out to New York City. Like, wow, but y'all so fancy, you know. But we weren't mad though. We were like celebrating, right? Yeah, we're like, oh, y'all cool, right? We were like the country mouse visiting the city mouse. You know, wow, right? So we went to nationals later, and this is what happened, right? We found that we wanted to attend the executive meeting, right? Just because we were curious, we wanted to learn how they were doing things, stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about, right? You've been to like any communist conventions?
I haven't actually been to any communist conventions.
Maybe we'll throw one. We got to get you out here. You know what I mean? Hopefully we could make it
Yeah.
happen. That would be cool. Yo, honestly, what's up in your community? Yo, I don't know if there's I know like there's a lot of people watching from the Rouge movement, whatever. You know what I mean? I know because of the recent stuff with Sarah. We're gonna talk about all that, yeah. But we're getting this ideological. Let's work it out. So, the thing is that they had these executive meetings, and we wanted to learn from them. We had no like we were just interested, right? We're very enthusiastic. Then what happened is they said the executive meeting was closed. So look, we said, you know what? We said why? We said, okay, we know they're a controversial organization, ISO. We're seen as socialists. You know, you get this stuff. So we said, you know what? I understand. You know, we're cool with it. We get it. You know, we accept it. You know, what I mean, but we're part of the organization. We've done a lot of stuff for y'all. We just want to sit in. We don't even have to vote or anything. We just want to watch. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right? But the thing is that we weren't allowed. We didn't make any stink about it. We accepted it. And when I say it to you, right, like it sounds like even now, like it's defensible. I don't have a problem with it, right? So, but when
Mhm.
we went back home, we decided to make our executive meetings open to the public. We said, you know, we don't have nothing to hide. We're just some honest guys. We want you to see that we're working on fighting racism. We want you to see that we're fighting all this stuff, right? Yeah. Guess what
Mhm.
Nationals did? They didn't call us. They didn't talk to us. They just kicked us out immediately. No discussion, nothing. We were just immediately wiped out. What? So then we started having a lot of discussions in our group, like what's going on, and people started like looking at literature, and there's the idea of something called the Vanguard Party. You heard about this concept?
Yes.
And this is really Trotsky's kind of known for this. Trotsky's known for several things, right? Yeah. So, but one of the things that's controversial is known for setting this Vanguard Party idea, where a middle class or a bourgeoisie kind of leadership settles in and kind of leads the revolution through the beginning because the workers are too busy or the workers don't have the skills to really get it done. So they have to be led by this Vanguard Party. Now, there's also different theories about like, maybe the Vanguard Party has to be overthrown. Maybe the Vanguard Party, right, assimilates into a larger thing. Um, but we have started to take a look at the idea of a controlling central agency that gets to make decisions for outer bodies. You get what I mean? So that
Yeah.
right there immediately made me question socialism and communism itself. Now, I believe communism is overall a more authoritarian view. And how do you feel about a does communism have a central leadership that is able to enforce its will upon others? And for socialism and communism, both combined, my question is, you're a trans person yourself, one of the most discriminated groups, straight up. How does this group, which is all about democracy, right, votes and everything,
Mhm.
right, how does it protect minorities?
So when it comes to first of all, yeah, there is a misconception that that the idea of a vanguard party, all that sort of stuff, is like super centralized, super authoritarian, and the fact of the matter is that that's quite a misconception, and as far as like we can double back to that in a little bit. As far as being a trans person in that community, um, especially being part of the little cadre of comrades that I have, it is we have a very all-encompassing, group of people, and I think ultimately that relies on there being a large, diverse, um, having the idea of acceptance and diversity within that vanguard party. And I know that historically, and I've gotten this argument quite a bit before, that oh well, you would have been purged during Stalin's age, and you would have been purged during the you wouldn't have been accepted as part of a communist party back then, and most communist parties are like this. And the misconception there is that most communist parties are somehow transphobic or homophobic, that they don't allow people in there. And the thing is that yes, they were in the past, but some have begun to realize, hey, we need to open up and become more accepting and allow more people within, our ranks, let more people within like the leadership and stuff like
I
that.
agree with
And
that.
I think that that's become more of and I definitely think that that's become more popular probably in the last 10 or so years. And as far as um, yeah, and
Things
it
are always changing, right?
yeah, it's always changing, and so what people don't understand when they make that argument is that no, it's like, yeah, that may have been history, but that's exactly what it was. It's in the past. That's not representative of what Marxist Leninists or or a communist party would be like today. And so the idea is that we are is that a modern day contemporary communist party that truly is of the people is going to end up having not only just party members within the like LGBT community, or within different other backgrounds and stuff like that, but also making sure that there is a very diverse um, central committee, and essentially out of that a Politburo that would that could that will be able to lead by example, and that is truly, and be able to lead a true people's democracy. And again, the whole idea is that people have this misconception that, yeah, that communist parties and essentially a lot of these socialist states under a vanguard party is authoritarian, and they don't really understand that the whole concept is that there are elections from the lowest section of the party, or in this case, say a local regional council. They elect a representative who is that who goes to another body, who is then and then there's elected representatives that go to the higher body.
We're talking
And
within the
so
Communist Party or
within
a
the communist
communist
within
structure.
a communist party framework, but also within the actual socialist state. For instance, that's originally how the concept of the Soviet Union was to work under the original plans that was actually drawn up during Lenin. What a lot of people and
Just
there's a lot of
yeah.
criticisms I could make about, say, Stalin, but there's a lot of things that I can also say in his favor. But again, we can get to that later. But it was basically under the later Soviet Union that the whole of this whole concept of having a more democratic framework.
If I could push
Um,
back for a second, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, you talk about democratic framework, and I like your answer so far. A lot of you said the truth, but one thing that I don't really hear yet is the answer of how does this democratic procedure protect minorities?
yes. So this democratic procedure would basically so the idea is that we want to get more people actively involved. We need like actual representatives to go to these meetings, to actually speak for the people, speak for their communities. And these are the people that because ultimately we can't really do anything if there's like no trans people, for instance, that want to run and go to to the highest
I
level.
I find that
Yeah,
the weak must be persecuted, whether it's right or wrong, right? And as the weak, I feel that persecution often. But the fact of the
yeah,
matter is that, right? There's a cost for losing. There's a cost for being weak, and it's unfortunate, but it's that we often have to get treated like shit. It
yeah.
is what it
So
is. It's
basically,
disgusting.
yeah,
Sorry.
the concept is that is that there is being able is that under this type of thing, having that openness, I guess you could
We must
say,
mobilize.
yeah, must mobilize, must take matters into our own hands, and take seize those opportunities when you can, because but where which can be afforded to them under under a people's democracy, whereas under a current system, or the what I call the bourgeois democracy, there it's very much geared to keep a lot of the oppressed people, the
Yeah, I
oppressed
would
people
say it's
down.
bourgeoisie oligarchy. In fact, to tell you the
Yeah,
truth, I'll be real with
yeah,
you, man. I'm an entertainer. I get to hang
yeah,
with rich people and poor people on both ends. That's kind of something that musicians kind of get around. We hang out with middle class people too, but we really get focused around the rich and the poor. It's weird like that. And the fact of the
yeah,
matter is that, I know a lot of rich people that want to hang out with poor people, and I'm not saying that they're the worst enemy. I'm saying it's the middle class. Honestly, I'm real, like unhappy with the way a lot of the middle class, how they disregard. They couldn't, the system could not oppress us without the cooperation and the disregard and straight up, willful ignorance on the part of the middle class. And it really, they're the reasons why we suffer like this. If they worked with
yeah,
us, then we wouldn't have this problem. Straight up. That's it.
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So that's just my take, man. Hey, it's been really cool chatting with you. We're gonna get into a whole bunch of issues. Oh my god, this is actually, I've been really looking forward to this. I've been pressing you for this interview, right? I emailed this guy twice. I've been bamming his thing. I was like, yo, I need to talk now. Oh, well, okay, let's talk about that hat for a second. That's definitely your trademark right there. You've been wearing that on every show. You said you're kind of like a movement thing. Is this kind of like, is that a deer skull?
No, so this is it's actually funny enough, a NCR Recon Ranger hat that I
What is
actually
NCR?
believe. That's from Fallout, the New California Republic. But I thought when I finally got it, I actually was like, you know what, this would be a perfect, nice little prop to wear in every video to kind of give me kind of that, typical, communist beret sort of look going on. My little tassel that I use to adjust the size of it keeps falling in my face, but that's okay. Um, it is a typical, but this is the beret that they would wear from the New California Republic, and one of the reasons why I like wearing it in my videos, besides that it's kind of looks like the typical communist beret, is I'm being a Fallout fan, having a partner that actually is a huge Fallout gamer. I and also myself being born and raised in California at the time. I live in Portland now. Um, but it's kind of one of those things where I guess in a way it's a sense of nostalgia for me as well. So it's like I like wearing it because I am a
Okay.
Californian. I consider and as a revolutionary, I can consider myself a soldier, prepared to die for a cause. So it's one of those things where it's like in a way this kind of symbolizes ever ready.
Okay, cool. I do actually gonna keep asking about some of the theory stuff now. So the thing
Mhm,
is that earlier you said that you were like, communist. Have you
mhm.
ever had or been able to see implementations of communism in your actual life, or been able to like, be involved with something that you felt like was more communist? Maybe like you worked with, let's say, for example, like the um in the restaurant industry, and you're like, oh, the way that, well, that's definitely super capitalist. But if we look at like maybe government services, let's say for example, like what does the government do for us?
So basically,
Police, right?
so
Police is paid for by the government, right? I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is essentially to, like under a socialist government, you'd still need some sense of law and order. You'd still need a sense of, some sense of, you'd still need a lot of services and stuff because again, you are literally kind of going from
Yeah, but have you
one.
gotten to implement it? I know like the theory stuff, right? But I want to know, have you actually implemented it or gotten to see it in person? Maybe you said it's never been achieved, but maybe there's some models that you've seen that are closer to communism or further
Oh yeah,
away. So which systems do you like, maybe?
I think honestly the closest I've seen it being something like that being implemented would have been. I don't know if this is the greatest example, but I feel like honestly the Capitol Hill autonomous zone in Seattle was probably about the closest because they actually did have like this sense of like council democracy or um,
Like a general
this
assembly?
sense. yeah, like a communalist sort of thing where they held daily community meetings where everybody showed up, and everybody had and everybody basically kind of learns to police themselves.
Is there anything
Somebody
like that going on right now in your community? Maybe you could make that happen. That would be an
um
interesting event. I would be
yeah,
support it.
it would be nice if there was something more in Portland for that, but I kind of feel like the I feel like some of like a lot of the Antifa members that were involved in what we like to often refer to as the Battle of Portland, because that was when Homeland Security and everybody was out here. That was a moment where I kind of did see a lot, definitely the most camaraderie amongst
Well,
different.
I gotta tell you something about that too, just so you know. I used to run with anarchists and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of new way that they portray an anarchist in the new world. There's a lot of that's one part of it is media misrepresentation. Two, there are some cats out there like that, but there's cats out there who are anarchists who are strongly against what the media is showing you anarchists are doing. So
Right.
before people go and start to say, that's what Antifa is, I mean, maybe in Portland it's different, but I'm here in New York. It's very diverse. It's a large community, right? 8.5 million people. LA's 4, Chicago's 2. We just got so many different communities out here on all ends of the spectrum. So but yeah, so I'm sorry, keep going on. So you felt like it seems like the anarchists once again, right, with that freedom, be able to do what they want to do, right? Yeah, a lot of communism is predetermined, or or maybe planned or decided on by others. People get to tell you what to do to an extent. That's
Yeah.
okay, but the also right, and we do have certain responsibilities. I'm not one to shy away from my responsibilities, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of times I've seen minorities left behind by a lot of these organizations, and we could look at them like right now. It's interesting. We look at the Lucians. We look at. I'm still learning about them. Okay, I like them in some ways, but in other ways I find them very disappointing. I'm sure they're watching right now. Right? Yeah, I love you guys, but I just learning about y'all, and I got some. I'm learning from this from Nicole today. But we'll talk. We also had this new MAGA communist thing. Caleb, oh my God, what a crap show. That's how I found your stuff, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he's good for. He brought us together. Yeah. Wait, we were gonna get to the trans stuff too. I can't wait. But what's going on with this? Right? They're trying. Some people are trying to take the communist movement in a weird ass way. What's going on?
Yeah, so we would not consider Larouchians or
Okay, what's
the
wrong with
Red.
Larouche? Because so far I kind of like him, but then something weird's going on. So I'll show you my
So
story there.
yeah, the
Go ahead.
Larouchian movement is largely based in these very white supremacist, very on just a lot of really far right viewpoints. I do not understand how a lot of these people, who call themselves socialists, got involved in that and still want to call themselves
They
revolutionaries
claim to be
because
communists. They don't even claim to be
because
socialists. They claim to be communists. Do you know about that?
yeah, and the idea, and that's the thing I have a big problem with, and that's what me and my and what a lot of contemporary Marxists have a problem with, because these are the people that are, that have been, should I say the word corrupted? I would use the word
Well,
corrupted.
there's different factions of Larouche. All groups have
Yes,
factions, so they've had multiple splits already.
yes, but a lot of them have been very much all kind of the same in some degree, because they all basically pander very what I would almost consider to be neoconservative viewpoints, especially when it comes down to LGBT rights, for example. A lot of these people follow kind of almost this Christian like doctrine that state, in which they believe that, essentially gay people and trans people are, that we're not human for some reason, or that we serve no purpose of being part of the Marxist community because it's based upon some fundamental or literalist term that, they seem to have, of which they think that there is no revolutionary potential in the LGBT community. And frankly, that's just not true. Yes, there are a lot of people that are very much liberal, but there's still a lot of people that have been so beat down by the system that they, that yeah, they can't, they should be considered part of the greater proletariat. And as Lenin once said, it's like we need to engage all forms of the proletariat. We need to reach out to all forms of the proletariat, because without that, they're real, how are you able to continue to grow a movement if you don't continue to educate people?
Okay,
And
I appreciate that. Yeah, I want to actually
yeah,
circle back to once again the implementation though of communism, right? Yeah, I'm gonna get
mhm,
off that in a moment, right? But the thing
yeah,
is that when me and my socialist buddies used to get together, we used to have like committees. We would have like everybody. We would have a general meeting. We'd have an executive meeting, right? Yeah, and then
mhm.
that's basically how we do things. Everybody had a vote. It was pretty democratic, right? Yeah, we were open to the public. When you and your communist buddies got together, I think we usually use Robert's Rules of Order. Did you guys have meetings? Did you guys do stuff like that?
Funny enough, we we still have group chats and stuff like that, if anything. Unfortunately, we haven't really had a chance to do meetings because we're all so spread apart. Like, for instance, um, my Jason Unruh, he lives in the Toronto area. One of my other comrades lives in like Chicago. Another one lives in San Diego. So the
Mm.
point is that it's kind of like we're really kind of spread out and trying to
Got to build
find
your locals
time.
too, man. Time to build those
Yeah,
locals. That's right.
there is a few people that are local, and there's another trans woman that I actually is part of my circle that is also in the Portland area. Um,
Oh, actually, I'll
so
shout
it's
out
just,
another trans producer right now. We're about to switch off to the trans stuff. We've been talking a lot about political stuff, but
yeah.
right now, I do want to get into that. So the person who kind of, I remember after, mm, was it something Tulsi did? Tulsi had done something, and then I was kind of like, concerned. So I reached out to someone named Cyber Demon. I don't know if you heard Andrew Rakowski. She's a trans producer for YouTube material content. Have you seen her stuff?
Not to the greatest extent, but I have heard of her.
Okay. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah. So actually, I linked up with her, and then we were talking about different things. And then one of the things that we talked about was housing. That was something I was working on. So I started to work on, discrimination for the trans community. I said, look, the fact of the matter is that trans people face a lot. And actually, I've talked to over 30 candidates in New York City alone, and also 30 candidates nationally across all lines. And I asked them this question for my political allies. And one of them in the trans community, I say, look, trans people face a lot of discrimination. They find themselves without a job. They find themselves, difficult to get housing, and they find themselves thrust upon the public housing system. So what happens if, I'm going to make up these numbers right here, what happens if we say 10% of the people applying for public housing are trans, but only 2%, right, are inside of public housing are actually trans? We look at these numbers and we ask the trans community, like, why do you think this is happening? And they tell us, they say, look, we're facing discrimination, people are, treating me messed up, I'm getting beat up, like, or they're leaving nasty notes. I just don't feel like staying here. They make me feel unsafe. So they move out, So the thing is, I asked them, even though there's no law saying you can discriminate against trans people, what are you going to do to make sure that they get fair access to public, public materials like that? At least fair access. So, that's I want to keep bringing that, and being part of the Tulsi community. I'll say that, right, because there's not a lot of Asian Americans out there. That's why I get to work with Yang and Tulsi. Oh my God, kill me now. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Hey, look,
Yeah.
that's my community's leaders, whatever. Yeah. But anyways, look, the thing is that her uh, now I'm recently she had a podcast going on, right? Yeah. So anyways, yeah. So look, the trans thing. Tell me about it, right? I think that one time you said that there's turfs out there within the LGBT community. There's discrimination itself. So tell me about the trans experience and your struggle with that.
Well, I guess to start with that experience, I came out in 2019, September of 2019 to be exact, and I, got on hormone therapy. About 8 months later, I've been out for about 3 years, been on hormones for about 2.5. And in the time that I've basically, in the time that I've come out, I have really, yeah, I've experienced a lot of, the stuff that you said. Like as I face it almost every day in my comment section, and it's really it kind of gets to you sometimes. But I've also come from a family of very tough women, very thick-skinned women, and very sarcastic women, and so I've learned that sometimes you either have to just ignore people, or you have to just or you can decide to choose violence. And for me, it's kind of a balancing act. It's, and how do I feel each day? But if I'm feeling, really feisty and stuff like that, yeah, I will purposely be a smartass to try to go after, TERFs who, basically say, oh, well, you're not a real woman. It's just kind of like, and, that's when I like to flip the script on them and ask them, well, what is a real woman? Because the whole concept of a woman is basically anything you want to be. And it's like, if you identify as a woman, you are a woman. It doesn't matter what you were born with, because that's the common theme I have with a lot of TERFs, is that they always want to focus on, what's in your pants. And it's like, well, with that argument, what do we have to say about women that are born intersex?
Okay.
And so, and we can get back to that. But yeah, ultimately, when it comes down to TERFs in the LGBT community, well, in this case, it would be the LGB Alliance, which is a group of people that seem to believe that it's that being gay is okay, but being trans is somehow a choice, or or that trans women don't deserve the same rights as the rest of the gay community. And I was pansexual. I came out as pansexual long before I came out as as trans. And maybe it's because of my upbringing, where I grew up, but I've I don't I, like the whole point of dividing the community really serves no purpose. In fact, it only seeks to really hurt the entire LGBT community as a whole. And so these people that essentially keep, marching, for marching against trans rights, and are essentially kind of being a detriment to their own rights at the end of the day. Because if you think that especially in a bourgeois democracy, if they come after trans rights, who do you think they're going to come after when they're done with that? They're going to eventually go after the rest of
I say the
the
same
community.
thing. As an Asian American man, a lot of times they eject me. You know what I mean? People think, oh, it's just because he's Asian American, I'll be okay. Then they get got later. You know what I mean? Every time. Every time. I have a lot of, practical experience with that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're doing great, by the way. Keep going.
Oh, I was just gonna add, yeah, it really comes down to that whole idea of, first they came for such and such, and then they came and you said nothing. Then they came for this group, and then you said nothing. And then they came for me, and there was no one else to stand up for me.
Okay,
It
so
really goes back to that age-old adage. And a lot of people don't seem to think about that, and particularly um, TERFs within the LGBT community are really a detriment. And there's TERFs even technically within even the trans community.
let's tell them what a turf is, because some people don't know what turfs are.
So typically, some people have referred to it as a trans exclusionary radical feminist. I prefer the term trans exclusionary reactionary fascist, because to call these people feminists
Wait a
is a
second. What
complete.
is a fascist?
So a fascist basically is anybody that holds a very um, ultra nationalist, ultra conservative viewpoint. People that typically have a view where
What is a
we need.
nationalist viewpoint? I'm sorry.
in in broad terms, people who believe in like a strong national identity, as people who believe in strong borders, people who believe in in essentially a military culture. That I'm kind of expanding on both the idea of nationalism and fascism in general, but that is essentially what that section of the political spectrum, uh, what they are. And
Okay.
so so yeah, those are people, and so it's basically anybody that holds this idea of kind of, the whole idea of, being essentially a tough guy, shaking a big stick
I lean
sort of
into that
thing.
a little bit. I do lean in. If that's the definition, I'm kind of that. Sorry to say. Not trying to be a bad guy, but I'm just letting you know I'm kind of that guy. The one you just described right there, that's
I mean,
basically me.
I
I'm
mean, the
just being real
difference
with you,
is
not
that
trying
you
to be a
don't.
dick, but
You don't seem like you hold ultra conservative views, which is what a lot of times, which
I
is what
fight
a
for mine.
fascist.
I fight for mine because a lot of times I get canceled. People say, "Yo, we're diverse enough here. We don't need you." You know, what I mean, we're diverse enough. We got the black people and brown people. We good. We don't need you now. So I just bam,
Yeah,
and I just get my ass in. I'm like, "Nah, you ain't fucking closing the door."
yeah,
And I just
we
don't
can
say, "Nah,
never.
I'm right here."
Yeah, we can never be too. There can never be too much diversity. Multiculturalism.
I force them to step up. Yeah, I force
Yeah,
the issue all the time. I'm that type of
yeah,
dude. So not trying to. Some people tie like the fascist, the corporate to the state, but like that doesn't have like there's different definitions. So it's good to really understand. Well, once again, I just feel like everything is just a tool. Like a lot of people, they have this idea that someone who's a martial artist, not that I am one, but that I'm not, but people like they watch the movies and they see this calm martial artist guy, but the fact of the matter is that when you have your adrenaline pumping, right? Yeah, that's how your body's naturally formed to respond. So,
yeah,
you have certain tools that you use, right? Like you get ramped up so you can handle the situation. So you use those tools in the appropriate time. So there's a time to be forceful and time to be understanding and come back. But the trans community, just sort of being Asian American myself and being excluded on a regular basis, and trans people, when I look around in my excluded area where all the uncool kids are and where everybody's not getting served and who's still waiting in line to get their stuff taken care of. Oh, it's the trans people over here, the disabled people over there, then poor people over there, and that's who I'm rocking with. So that's what my
yeah,
acting is really about, helping those communities. So much love out, and the fact of the matter is that, so I'm gonna address some of the community because, like I said, I am actually in the Tulsi community right now. She just did you see her most recent podcast where she has somebody on now? The thing is that before her attacks on Leah Thomas, I believe was her name, Leah Thomas.
yeah,
Okay, so look, I'm gonna say this, right? The fact of the matter is that trans people face so much unfair things in their daily life. This is what I said before, right? Yeah, and I addressed the Tulsa community on this, right? Maybe you felt like that was unfair, and I'm not going to say like it was, one way or the other on that. I'll let you make the decision. But even if it was unfair, right, in that one sporting event, when you look at how trans people are faced with housing, the unfairness in their jobs, the fairness, the violence that they face, the societal loneliness, right? Yeah. And then the
yeah,
one time you care about unfairness was that one. Again, what? Come on. Oh my God. Yeah. How can you just completely overlook the daily stuff, right? Yeah. And the reality that they face versus, right, focusing on that one event. Yo, are you serious? Like, come on. That's not nice. This is just so unfair for you to focus on that one. Oh my God. I can't believe this.
yeah.
How can, I just don't think that's defensible.
It isn't. They try to. It really is them trying to poke holes, in, trans, visibility. Well, not even visibility, just trans validity. They try to do whatever they can to make us feel invalidated, both, as a person and just within society.
Okay, so now,
They
and I
are
have to admit, I'm sorry to say that you're right. And on that issue, I agree with you. On the other issue with actually my man William from Virginia, I've done a lot of work with him. Unfortunately, he feels like trans people are trying to invade women's uh, bathrooms and harass children. And it's not like heterosexual guys don't do that too, okay?
right.
Right? Yeah, like seriously. And the thing is that when you treat them messed up and you discriminate against them and you make them angry and you make them feel all alone, and then they do criminal shit. Like, what do you expect? You're fucking with them, so treat them nice, and they'll be nice. You know what I mean? How about that?
Yeah.
But but one thing that I do think is actually a little bit more convincing now, poking the hole. I'm sorry to do that, but now they have Tulsi had someone on who was trans but then detransitioned, and then
Hmm.
when you hear them talk about it in a way that is, and they actually went through the process, so they did sacrifice something going through the process. So so you just seeing that some people kind of have a change of view. I'm not saying that I think that there's it's fair to just let the children let the children develop as they are. Um, and I'm not and but they're trying to say that all trans people think that way. But I think that there is a little bit more convincing when they talk about people who decided not to be, and then it's people are like, they're a little bit more concerned about like paying for procedures and stuff like that because they feel like, does this person, are they sure? You know what I mean? And if some people change their mind, they feel less, comfortable about supporting that.
And I would say that that's a natural reaction. It's all very valid. I, contemplate, you know, I contemplate the surgeries that I'm going to eventually have, in the future, and I contemplated them a lot, especially, I sometimes it's almost a daily thing, and it's a scary thought, and yes, and it's just the idea of, well, am I real, what, where do I really stand with this? Am I really prepared to go through such you know a traumatic surgery? And I hate to use the word traumatic, but for some people it can be. You're basically,
But if you're thinking about it,
going through major
if you're thinking
surgery.
about doing it, I'm gonna guess that the hormones have been going well. So
Yes.
you do like the hormones and the way they make you do.
Yes.
It's cool.
And I was going to actually double
Good to
back
know.
on that whole idea of people who detransition. And see, a lot of people there are some people that do detransition. There's not a lot of them, but they do detrans. There are some people that do it. But most of the time those that actually detransition are doing it because it's again that idea of being oppressed by the rest of society. They feel like they're not going to be accepted in their community. For example, if they live in, Florida, especially a very conservative part of Florida, for example,
Yeah.
some of them either are going to basically feel like they need to just go back in the closet and try, or they're going to have to flee to some other place. Well, the problem is that most trans people don't have the means to do that, and so they just feel it's easier to detransition. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't I'm not taking away the validity of people that detransition because they feel like they've made some mistake or whatever, but they are they're a very small group of people within the community that have done that, but those are the people that usually
Do you know the
that a lot
numbers? Are the numbers that exist? Is it like 2% of them, 5%? I don't know.
of smaller than that, actually. I think
Oh,
it's
really?
actually like less than one. I believe the last time I looked it up, it was like less than 1%.
Oh, really?
um but I know that, yeah, it's a very small group of them that do that. And but these are the people that usually get picked by the media, especially the right-wing media, that tries to, and by a lot of
Because they're
transphobic
selling a
people.
service. They're selling a
Yeah, they're
service, right? Yeah, they're selling the detransitioning service. And that's the way a
yeah,
lot of the media is built, right? If someone has a commercial message, that's going to overcome a real analysis of the situation because the advertiser's going to pay for a
right.
certain
And then
outcome.
people start catching on to that, and then they're thinking, oh well, then being trans is this thing, and it's like, no, that's not an overarching representation of who we are and anything like that. you know because if you end up believing that everything that these transphobic people were to say, you'd think that, oh well, these trans people are just going through a phase, so that they'll detransition later, or they'll realize that they're making a huge mistake. And that's not how it is at all.
Well,
Um,
I'm really so sorry to see Tulsi leading the way on this kind of like anti-trans kind of stuff because I'll be real with you, and I'm still like a fan of her anti-war message, but you know, and she's still a leader in the Asian American community, kind of, yeah, fighting, I guess, again, anti-white racism. Yeah, you know, Yang's whole staff is 100% white. That he all the
yeah,
every single minority that was here in New York City was gotten rid of or they left unhappy, and yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty sad. Oh my God, yeah, it's disgusting. That's the
I
state
mean,
that we face, you know, and that's we're also in the trash. So me and my trans peoples, that's why we like this. Oh, do you know elf actually is actually a new term for trans in many ways? Have you ever heard about that? It's
yeah. Well,
becoming a thing.
I've heard some people who refer to themselves as Fae, and which again, if that a lot of I don't really know much about people that identify as Fae because being a pagan, my concept of Fae is comes from the idea of fairies, which were uh, in often seen in Celtic culture. But it's so my whole idea is that these are my first thought was these are people that identified as like some sort of magical beings, but I don't even care if that's what people identify as. I mean, heck, I'm my religious views is that I'm not only a Norse pagan, but I also practice Wicca, religious witchcraft. And so, you know what? If you want to, see yourself as a magical being, I'm all here for it. I'm not, I am definitely in no room to judge. So,
You know, actually, I know that would actually trigger some Larousians, I think. Yeah, because they do make a deal about being Christians and stuff like that. But I also do hang out with other, down here, actually, the Pigwood Prince community, I did meet other pagans and witchcraft people. So they're cool. And I think that I don't want to say any names, right? There's also some entertainers. And look, I'm real with y'all. Yeah, I don't get involved with nothing funny with either side. They're actually the Christians, we know about them having more shenanigans going on, right? Yeah, than
yeah,
witchcraft, really, nowadays, right? Yeah, you have those Catholic churches, it's not a good thing. So let's not point fingers, yeah? Point the finger back at
yeah,
yourself, really, kind of. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Anyways, yeah. So
yeah.
I'm really excited to. So look, the trans community. One thing that I was trying to work on in public housing was now, you tell me what you think about this. It might be actually. I try to talk to the, I guess you could say the gay corporate activist community down here about it, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
the ones on the street is cool, but they're not really involved with the politics and actually getting the things done. And the corporate ones, they're like, nah, we're too good for you. It's kind of disgusting. Yeah, you know, like Ellen DeGeneres, right? Yeah, that was treating her
Oh
staff.
yeah,
It's like that fucking flavor. Fuck that. Anyways,
yeah.
yeah, oh, it's horrible. But the thing is that so the thing is that what was I saying? I lost train of thought and smoked it. But yeah, but the so what I'm trying to do down here is in public housing, like I said before, right? When we look at the Medicare, the way that they detect for discrimination is they have a survey, and then you say that, oh, I'm black or whatever, right? Yeah, and you fill out that survey, and then at the end they take that, and then there's hopefully there's a way to anonymize that because it could also be like, oh, you're black, you're not going to get services today, right? Yeah. But another
Mhm.
thing they can do is they can use that to track to see if there's a racial component to the way people are being serviced in the system.
Yeah,
So they look at it. So I was thinking that maybe, right, maybe we could also protect the community, but maybe we could start to ask, are people trans? Now I know now I know my Republican friends because I do work with Republicans. Not that what I mean. I work with the Russians. I work with everybody. Okay, a lot of them
Mhm.
blackball me and keep me off of their media, right? Yeah, because I can't. Yo, I'm straight media blackout, man. Kim Iverson, fucking the Vanguard, fucking none of them will have me on their show because I'm blackballed in the whole industry for saying this shit. You know what I mean? Yo, it's I'm dead ass, bro. Dead ass.
yeah.
It's fucking sad, man. But anyways, so the thing is that the what we could do is we could start to track, right? To see if the trans community, especially, right? I think they face some of the most discrimination. Let's be real, right? Yeah, as in terms of
Mhm.
housing and other public servicing. So I'm trying to see, but it's very hard for me to get my suggestions listened to. But so one person from an organizer said that was tracking was one thing that they were working on. But as in terms of working with me on it, it seems like they were like, nah. we're too big for you. Like, we don't count. So I was like, okay, I get it, but it's not cool.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I bet you the LGBTQ community, right? Yeah, a lot. Is there discrimination in that community? For sure, right? The trans
Yeah.
people are just not really your clique isn't big enough, not politically powerful enough, so a lot of times y'all get left behind.
Yeah. I've often feel like the trans community, like we are lagging about 30 to 40 years behind in terms of, rights and stuff like that, because I feel like gay and lesbian rights, and maybe and bisexual rights is to some degree as well, have taken more precedence. But I would say that gay and lesbians have taken like a higher precedence of, priority, um, throughout the last 40, 40, 50 years. um, Bisexuals have kind of ridden the coattails of that, but they're kind of still being like, there's still people that kind of feel weird certain feelings about bisexual people, which is just really sad.
You know what?
And then, but
Yeah,
then when
go
it
ahead.
comes down to trans people, like we have basically been given, the short end of the stick, quite a lot. And how we basically, and how, yeah, even though, a lot of people within the trans community identify as part of being, the LGBT, Q plus and stuff like that, we are, we have been largely left behind when it comes down to just our rights as human beings and stuff like that, because it's only been obviously within the last like 10 years that trans rights has even started to become like even a form of vocal topic for people.
Yeah,
And whereas, it's like, gay rights has been, a talk since, pretty much since like the late 60s. So it really is sad, but at the same, at the same, and that's why I basically try to that's why I try to basically educate people on trans rights. That's why, as a, person that regardless of my political affiliation, I try to speak about it online. I try to speak about it in my videos and stuff like that,
yeah.
to
I think
basically,
that yeah,
yeah,
really one thing that really just occurs to me is that the gay and trans people is not doing something new. These people, if you take a look at all of history across all societies, all races, all cultures, gay and trans people exist. They're part of humanity. They're part of the human story. And maybe you want to deny that segment, but you know what I mean? Straight up, you know
yeah,
it's true.
yeah,
Every society, every race, every culture has this community in it. It's part of the human experience. So stop denying them and help them just get along. Damn, you know what I mean? These are human beings too,
yeah.
straight up.
Like I said earlier about, with the people that like the LGB Alliance, who discriminate against, trans people and don't consider us part of their great, their community and stuff like that. Like, we're all part of the same community. We all breathe the same air. We all, bleed the same, we all bleed red. So at the end of the day, can we all just treat each other, as human beings, and realize, hey, we are part of the same cause. Why cause that division? So
Hell yeah. So what's up? Actually being in New York, right? I'm compatching to some communities over here. I'm actually, just so you know, the co-chair of, oh, you used to be in DSA too, right? I saw that because I was going through the
yeah.
old videos and I saw, oh, you used to be in DSA. So what happened there? You went from DSA to communist. DSA wasn't really serving your needs, or they just kind of fell off.
So I,
Like,
I wasn't necessarily part of I wasn't really part of the DSA. I was that might have been like, yeah, like I might have been dabbling with the idea of being in the DSA a long time ago, before I actually discovered Marxism. But I've openly spoken out about the DSA, because they often, sideline with Democrats, and they have this mentality of, oh, we can change the Democratic Party, and ultimately change the system from the inside out. And that's not what, as a Marxist, what I believe in. I believe that essentially we have this running thing where we say, you can't change the system changes you. And that's not only true for the overarching system, but just for like a group like the DSA who says, oh, we're going to infiltrate the Democrats and turn them socialist. No, you're not. It's the same for the people that for some people that claim to be like Marxist Leninists or Maoists or something like that, who say, oh, we're going to infiltrate the DSA and turn it, full fledged, ML or something like that. No, you're not. Like that's not how it's like these people are very much the DSA, I'm not trying to shit on them or anything like that, but they just obviously we have certain differences of opinion, and a lot of those opinions is that they still believe that they can reform the system, whereas I believe that there is no reforming a system. You have to drastically revolutionary change, like get rid of the actual
Yeah,
system
that's the
and replace
classic.
it with something else. Yeah.
Before, okay, so actually that's cool. That's so cool that you talk about that, because really, I can't have this discussion with 90% of the people out there because they don't go back that far. Now, the fact of the matter is that you was there during Obama. You probably was looking at political stuff too in the 90s. Am I correct? Yeah. So the fact of the matter
Yeah.
is that back then, if you were joining different socialist communist organizations, there's this very common factor where they would say, you cannot, there must be a revolution. That's part of the whole, it's a revolutionary ideology. Hold up a second, right? Then Bernie came around, the first socialist, right? Yeah, to get elected.
Mm.
And there was a lot of discussions in my group back in the day. What is this? Do you believe in this? And the thing is that, see, now this is what kills me about the revolutions. I hope y'all watching, right? Yeah. You know, and I hope that the rest of y'all, Revolutionary Black and all the rest of y'all who's blackballing me in this thing, okay? The fact of the matter is that I'm a generational victim of war. I am actually Korean American over here, and the fact of the matter is that when y'all talk about this Russia-Ukraine stuff, blah blah blah, don't drop the nukes. I'm against war, okay? When we take a look at Israel and we take a look at Korea, those have been like the real fault lines for war for a long time. They both have a mandatory military service in their countries because the fact of the matter is that the tensions are so high. There's nuclear bombs in North Korea right now, and the fact of the matter is that people keep saying it's not going to happen, right? Yeah, you keep pissing off somebody, right? Yeah, eventually it's going to freaking happen. You know what I mean? They're going to get fed up. And also, Russia needs something to happen. Anything could go down. So really, right? When they're black, in those times for them to blackball me, it's quite it's disgusting and wrong, and they need to agree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but they're playing games because they have their own bougie agenda, and it's not just the politicians, it's not just the organizers. The media itself has its own thing going on. Each industry has its own thing going, and their own corruption and their own little incomplete
Yeah.
information they sending up to the top. So I'm just I've been actually socialist for a long time. And one of my first experiences was getting kicked out by nationals for being open and transparent. You know what I mean? So that right
Mm-hmm.
there was a big wake up call early, that to be skeptical and to be more questioning of leadership. And to tell you the truth, right now, just so you know, I work with the Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Greens, and Libertarians.
Mm-hmm.
DSA, I know I work with them too. I know what they're capable of. I know their numbers. I know who's actually doing stuff. I know what's going on, and not the stuff that they putting out, not the stuff that the media is telling me. I'm in those spaces, directly interacting, seeing what's going on. And the fact of the matter is that some of my best friends that are also watching things like this, right? We feel like the whole move against the trans people right now is a fake narrative being rebuilt to make us refight fights that we already had before. Let's be real. Most people, with what was going on with abortion, they were fine with things the way it was. The way trans people were being treated, they didn't feel like they need to all of a sudden start attacking trans people. You know what I mean? Some people like
Yeah.
to use pronouns. They thought it was silly. I don't use the pronouns, right? I'm not against you, or maybe right, yeah.
Right.
But I still, I'm completely right. I think trans people should be treated like human beings. I'm super happy when I see them have a job. I'm like, yo, someone hire them. That's cool as shit. You know what I mean? They're not worried about the constant rule having a business, but you know what I mean? Or I'll buy more. They fuck it. You know what I mean? But y'all, that's just me. Look, thing is that y'all, right, yo, um, Anyways, yeah, what's your take on that whole situation right there?
Um, yeah, just it's just the whole thing with people that like to continue to um yeah, they just want to continue to oppress trans people. It's just it
Do you think
really
it's a false narrative being recycled? Because honestly, right, instead of talking about the real problems,
yeah
they're keeping us involved in something they already know. Why is this sudden attack on trans people going on? Like, where did it freaking come from? Like, oh my god, why are they
yeah
so?
it,
Yeah, don't say gay for what?
it's
Like, how about just
it's
you don't
definitely
need to bring
yeah
attention to it, but you don't need to like have a ban on it. Like, it's a dirty word. I
yeah
get it
it's
if
like
someone's annoyed if someone the
it,
teacher's going, yeah, I'm gay every day. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah like
they're
there
learning other
you're
things too. Yeah.
absolutely narrative that is literally recycled, pandered over and over again. It's really a broken record is more what I would consider it. Um, and that because it's the same regurgitated garbage that these people use over and over again to oppress trans rights. And it's really like, look, it's kind of like, a person that to put it in perspective for people, especially for in America, it's like, Americans are obsessed with sports, for instance, like basketball, baseball, football. Like some person is going to be a fan of the Giants, while another person is going to be, a fan of the Jets. It's like, okay, you don't like that team, but you'll accept the fact that that person, is a Jets fan, or that person is a Giants fan.
If I could just
You know,
if I could just shoot you a warning right quick. So the thing is that look, when the rich people saw that like the black people getting pissed off in LA, they geared them up
mm,
against the Asian American, straight up. You know what I mean? They said these are the problem. Now the thing is that the elites see that they screw up the economy. They see that the pressure valve has to be let off somewhere, and they're aiming at the trans community.
yeah, that I would that's a pretty good assessment
Yo,
of
we
what it
gotta.
is.
This is serious, man. This is not cool.
Yeah,
It's dangerous.
they try to they always are looking for somebody to essentially be their scapegoat, or they're essentially to be their the person or group that they can essentially shit on or blame things on when when shit gets too hot for them. And yeah, and that is, again, that is just endemic of a bourgeois democracy, these elitist people that are trying to that ultimately whose goal is to oppress all people who aren't basically cisgendered, heteronormative, white, and in most cases also Christian. That but
Politically
they're
weak must be attacked. I'm
pretty
sorry to
much
say. I'm sorry to say.
that's pretty much the
Disgusting.
overarching thing of a lot of these Western so-called democracies. So yeah,
Yeah, the weak must be persecuted. That's my
yeah,
reality every fucking day. Fuck it. That's why I'm an activist. Let's
yeah,
go. Let's go. Yeah? Let's go. Anyways, yo man, that was really so let's do some future planning, you know what I mean? Yo, Oregon, that's a huge community for activism, you know what I mean? And I definitely want to link up with both. Now the Marxist Leninist thing, I have to admit, hey, what's your take on me, man? I'm interested, yeah? The stuff that I said I'm an anarchist. I am kind of a you see me, right? Yeah, people get in my way. You see my videos, I'm like, oh, you don't stop. I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe I'm a little on the F, maybe I'm a little bit of F type. I'm not trying to be that, you know what I mean? But I
I
am
mean,
pushing.
you seem like you'd be a person that probably would be like a left wing leaning nationalist, and a probably an anarcho communist or something like that to some extent. Um, it's one of the so yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
whatever we
like
can
I
work
don't
on
have
together, I want to work on that with you. I think you're super cool. I respect
yeah.
your experience in the game. And
Mhm,
this Marxist thing, I'll tell you the truth, I'm not really so much of a theoretician. I've actually
mhm.
lived in some communal like type, communal attempted setups. I've seen how things work out in those things. There's other, for me, there's other currencies that develop besides cash, capital, right? Yeah, there's other currencies that do, social hierarchy.
Hmm.
People have, just from the family structure, people look up to a daddy figure or a leader. It happens maybe even biologically. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows, right? So we gotta, um, there's just a lot of other things going on. So I really struggle with that. A lot of people have great ideas, but putting them into practice is a whole nother story. And most of the times, when it gets put into place, the actual workers on the ground doing the shit get fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No matter what. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say, unfortunately, with the Laurutians, I love y'all, but the fact, let's be real, okay? Even though like y'all like science and stuff, and I know they're into their classical culture, I know they sometimes not crazy about the trans thing. I wish y'all be a little more open about the reason I said today. Y'all are scientists, right? Remember what I said before? They're part of our humanity in every race, every culture. You cannot deny their existence throughout history. Y'all study history, right? So tell me they're not part of the human experience and that you want to delete them. Come on, that's not
Yeah.
nature right there. That's not
The the
natural.
thing the thing too is that my experience, I don't know, I haven't worked closely with the Laurutians, and I probably won't ever be afforded that opportunity, given the fact that Caleb Maupin has blocked me.
Is Caleb a
But
Laurentian? I thought he's not. Or is he kind of?
he as far as I know, he had identified as a Laurutian. Now I don't know if he still identifies as that,
When did
because
he do that?
this has been something that he endorsed during the time when he kind of linked up with
CPI
uh,
Austin?
yeah, when, oh, he this was ultimately, yeah, when he linked up
Okay.
with well, I mean, the whole CPI itself, the Center for Political Innovation, is kind of in a lot of ways his cult, or at least his local branch of it pretty much is his cult.
He hasn't
And
really
it's
achieved anything in like really real life though. He got made into a guy
no,
because he was at Occupy Wall Street and like said some stuff on a stage. Okay.
he is your typical middle class white kid who basically has grown up with this level of privilege, and he is and then is out and has, essentially used his position and his 15 minutes of fame on YouTube and other platforms to um essentially abuse people. Hence, there was I don't know if anybody's familiar with the allegations
Oh,
that
I
came
know
out.
them personally. I know them
Yeah.
personally. I hung out with Yankee Tanky. I know the name of number two. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I know them from
Yeah.
being out here in New York. So it's hilarious, dude. I can give you the
Yeah.
inside scoop.
And I think, and I think it's quite, interesting to slowly watch his downfall. And yeah, he's recently returned, but not without the criticism.
But
And
I do have to ask you because I do feel like you're similar in this regard, right? Yeah.
mhm,
Y'all like
yeah,
to rock like the Russian flag and the Chinese flag and all this other kind of
uh,
thing like that. Now, I'm not mad at that, but the thing is, the fact of the matter is that being from Korea, I look at
mhm,
how much information over here is correct about Korea, and I just disregard everything that I hear about Korea because I'm like, y'all know nothing about Korea. You know what I mean? So then I hear about
so
what's going on in Russia, Ukraine. I'm like, they don't know anything about what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, right? Yeah. But the thing is that
so
in the last thing, yeah, in the movement, right, you have like a Hinkle, you have like Jason Unruh, right? Yeah. But the thing is that the most of the producers, like you said, were white right before. But when you take a look at Korea and China, why aren't there more Asian American people talking on, right? Don't you think that our experience with,
see,
yeah, go ahead.
there are some people that will talk about it who are part of the I don't know, I wouldn't say Asian American community, but there is, because like I would agree with that. A lot of Asian Americans, there is not a lot of representation, people like that talking about China. Most of the representation you see are from people that are either living in China, or to a lesser extent people like Luna Oi, who, who are Vietnamese and have, parents that are high ranking within somewhere within the Communist Party somewhere. But yeah, most of the people that are talking about China and, all these things are typically white people, and it's really quite sad that there is not more representation from the Asian American community, and particularly because I know that for a fact that there are definitely Asian American Marxist Leninists and other
But
leftists that are
I
out
also
there.
want to address. I appreciate that. Yeah, but I also want to address why do you guys right as shared fly the flags of another country? Do you feel like is that Russia and what's that blue, red, and white? The blue, red, and white. I think that's Russia. What's what the red with the sickle, hammer, and sickle? Is that China or is that
So no,
Russia?
actually, no.
USSR.
The one that I've got behind me is actually it. So it's a Soviet flag, but it was something somebody had cleverly embroidered the trans flag underneath it. So it's almost yeah, it's almost representational of like a Soviet republic, basically. But obviously, it's just it's somebody basically just decided,
Oh,
hey, let's just slap a trans flag on the bottom of a Soviet flag, and yeah, so it's pretty. So I mean, that's one of the things that I have. Yeah, I represent. I often will have like the Soviet flag in there because despite my own criticisms about the Soviet Union, especially in its later decades, um I still there still is a sense, some sense to be proud of with certain things that they accomplished. But yeah, no, circling back on the thing about flying the flags of other countries, um I don't do that personally. Most of the people that I'm involved with the Jason Unruh crowd, we don't typically fly. We don't fly that. The people that I see doing that are typically, especially with the Russian flag and the Chinese flag, typically tend to be from Maupin's camp or from the the Hajas / MAGA communist people, and our personal stance, at least
oh, you
in
do the
the
hammer sickle thing,
yeah, the
but
hammer
that's
and
not the
sickle thing.
flag. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
no,
more.
the
Okay,
hammer and sickle is just basically representational that we're communists.
okay,
So
that's cool. I didn't know. I wasn't
yeah,
sure. Okay,
yeah.
good to know.
So yeah, so but as far as the yeah, as far as them representing, we don't like our camp, the Jason Unruh camp. We don't. So the thing is that we go by the very classic and very contemporary form of Marxism Leninism that basically believes that goes by his interpretation of things, that we don't get involved in inter imperialist conflicts. In the case of Ukraine, we don't support their government, but that doesn't mean we don't support their people, much in the same regard that a lot of Russian people don't necessarily agree with the war going on, and we support them, but we obviously don't support the government. We support people that want to defend their homes and such, but yeah, but we aren't going to support US, any sort of US NATO backed intervention. Where we definitely do not condone the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The most that we might actually believe in is that Donetsk and Lugansk should be essentially independent, and we find it absolutely abhorrent that both the Ukraine and Russia have banned, the communist parties there. But we also aren't very surprised, considering again these aren't communist states. They're basically it's a imperialist power, Russia, going after small fish who just happens to be whose government just happens to be right now um, being swayed by the influence of the Western imperialist powers. So our current stance is that we'll stand with the people of Ukraine, we'll stand with the people of Russia, we'll stand with the people of Donetsk and Lugansk, but we're not going to essentially involve ourselves in an inter-imperialist conflict, and that's what sets us apart from a lot of people like, for instance, Zoe Baker and a lot of some other anarchists that I've seen on Twitter, and definitely sets
I
would
don't know all these people. I have to admit, this is new for me. Yeah, I've heard the names, but
yeah.
I've been too busy chasing down other roads. But what are they?
And then it
Zoe
also sets
Baker, interesting. Okay, what's her take on this?
uh Zoe Baker's is
I just
is an
disregard
interesting
all
character.
of this Ukraine like Russia stuff. I don't pay attention to because I just don't trust any of it. I just think it's all lies. But
Yeah, a lot of it's really just based on a lot of it's just really based on, propaganda from either side, because it's
okay,
also another reason why it's kind of a headache to try to,
so
sift through all the nonsense.
so it's good that you made that differentiation because I'm just quite curious, right?
Mhm.
I've watched some of Caleb Maupin stuff. I've watched some of the other guys' stuff, and they're okay, right? They know some. We've talked about some basic, you know, communist and socialist theory today, right? I think we talked about Vanguard Party, Trotskyiism, like we had a pretty cool discussion, straight up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can have okay discussions too. It's not like they're going so much deeper. Their basics are okay, but then like, what are the what besides flying flags from different countries? Like, what's their appeal or what makes them different and why is right? Yeah, what makes Caleb Maupin different from anybody else?
Caleb is a weird Caleb and well, I'm gonna kind of lump Caleb with
This theory seems
um
okay when I watch him. You get what I'm saying?
eh,
You've watched this stuff?
he I think, to be honest, he appeals more to um a lot more impressionable younger people, like who are like fresh out of high school or in college, people who are might even still be in high school, because these are people that are still can be easily influenced. Now, I don't personally agree with Caleb's interpretation of socialism. In fact, I would actually not even I don't we would me and the Unruh camp would
What's the difference?
not even categorize him as a socialist. But nor would we categorize a lot of the Larouchians as socialists. We don't, definitely don't consider the so-called MAGA communists as as socialists. But ultimately, yeah, no, it's like I try listening to Caleb's stuff, but it's kind of hard for me to really listen to somebody that again has been accused of uh certain crimes and doesn't
Yo,
and
the
tries
sad part
to.
about it is that a lot of those people took their testimony back, but it's too late already, and Caleb admitted it. Like,
Yeah,
I guess they're being accepted back circle. Like, they lost
not
more.
only
It's worse. They
not
lose
only
more credibility
admitted
doing that.
yeah,
Yeah,
not only really so much admitted it, he
he deleted his
downplayed he
Twitter
downplayed it. He tried to
afterwards. Yeah,
basically, yeah.
because he wants to keep the
And
money going.
yeah, that's essentially what he's, here for anyway. He's trying, that there's a reason why he's has, a dedicated like 1,000 or so subscribers, or not subscribers but viewers, that tune into his to his videos every week, because essentially those are, the very, the essentially the cult, the his little cult members that like to
His
that
theory's okay,
that's
but he hasn't really gotten a lot done. He isn't really
yeah,
experienced. He's
no.
not very like his theory's okay, and that's about it. And what else does he? He because he wears a suit or something because he's amazingly good looking. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what it is.
Well, there's also the whole, like, I'm not here to kink shame, but there's also the whole, he does have a kind of a notorious reputation about with it about liking to be spanked, so hence why he's often called
The
Spanky
Spanky
Tanky,
Tanky.
or as I like to sometimes refer to him as Spanky McBorger King. So
What is that Burger King? That Burger King. Yeah.
that was a mispronunciation or something like that, I or something that he did a while back, and it was something that we ended up just like kind of ripping him on, and it kind of just became a meme in the Marxist community, and ultimately, when kind of the whole when he kind of deviated from the whole classic and contemporary Marxist way of thinking to start essentially shilling himself out to Russia Today. That's when we basically started using those memes to rip on him. So, and that's and so he's just yeah, we often just refer to him as the Borger King, and and it's but
Yeah.
it's also the same in regard. It's also in the same regard that we refer to infrared Hawes as, infracell Hawes, because he basically, is the epitome of an incel
Yeah, well,
who,
actually, I think
yeah.
doesn't no Haas doesn't he have that hot girlfriend Samira Khan or something? I just heard about that,
So
but Caitlyn
there
tried to
isn't,
dump him. But yeah,
there's no proof that they're actually dating. But it is
I
rumored
hope they
that
are. I mean, good luck to him and good luck to her. Yeah, whatever.
there
I don't
is a
care, but
rumor though
yeah,
that they are, and frankly, a lot of us, yeah, good for him if he does,
I
because
hope so.
that's really the only woman that probably will ever sleep with him. Um,
I really
because
don't follow the material, but one thing is that look, those cats are doing their own thing, but really in the end, right? Yeah, I know they do have following, whatever. But the
mhm,
fact of the matter is that people on the ground that's actually in the communities talking to people that are really struggling. Once again, when I'm on the bottom, when I'm out there with like, not getting help, I look around at who's with me, trans people, disabled people, and those people that are working with. Time for the revolution to come. Who's gonna know where the resources are really at? The dudes on YouTube who only knows what everybody else knows what's online, right? Yeah, or is it people that's out here on the streets really making them networks and relationships and caring the future, you know what I mean? And who's actually the
yeah.
real workforce of this? Yo, look at these flyers right here. You know what I mean? I got voting forms and I got petitions. Yo, I'm New York City's #1 street activist. I'm out here doing all the work with all the communities. I'm even working for trans people for real. Like I don't know that they could even say that they're doing anything for trans people. And I know that there's people who are watching today who are probably going to be not for this particular show, but I'm going to tell you that this is a special guest, and I'm honored to have Nicole on and I mean, really to talk about these issues because I believe this is really the new. Unfortunately, right? Yeah, they're recycling the freaking the hate again. So they're recycling the ones most in need of help right now.
Yeah.
In this community, straight up, yeah. I'm sorry to see that Tulsi the way she's kind of leading the charge on that. So, not saying that her critiques are getting better but not that good still. But you need to
Yeah,
address the
I mean,
unfairness that they face. You can't
I
leave them
mean, in a
around.
lot of ways, I did see. It's something I don't remember if what video it is that's going to be released soon. I think it's actually one of the ones I'll be releasing in December. But it's where I basically was saying that I'm not really surprised by Tulsi, because I don't know what it was. I
She's made
kind
moves
of,
like that before.
yeah, she's flip flopped on a lot of issues, and she's kind of been, I've maybe it's just because I have a sixth sense about a lot of things, and maybe I've learned to hone that since I've been a Marxist Leninist, but I've never really necessarily trusted her, and now I kind of, and now that she's coming out as being a turf, basically, I'm starting to understand why that was. I wasn't trusting her, and the fact that she's regurgitating,
So wait a
a
second. Wait
lot
a
of
second.
right wing
Earlier you
rhetoric.
said that you don't believe in the electoral system in general. You want to have a revolution on it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. You know what I mean? By the way, I do work with the electoral system. I work on all fronts. I'm
Yeah,
pushing the battle on all the fronts of the electoral system, the revolutionary system, on the streets, in the halls, everywhere. You know what I mean? Push online, everywhere. I'm pushing on all the fronts.
yeah.
But for you, where do you see the as in terms of like getting it done? How can we move the movement forward in terms of actually helping, this community?
I think one of the biggest things that we have to do is that we, as leftists, really need to have. I think it's one of those things we need to sit down and have just a collective chat, and that includes, because fact of the matter is, there are people like, Maupin, there are people like Hawes who have views that, you know almost seem in line with a lot of, far right rhetoric at times, and that really need to be discussed, because it's kind of like, whoa, where do you really stand on the issues? Do you believe in, being all encompassing?
So I'm gonna
And
shout out some people right now. I'm gonna shout out Revolutionary Blackout. I'm gonna shout out Frank Analysis. I'm gonna shout out Jason Unruh. I'm gonna shout out all the progressive YouTubers out there. I'm gonna shout out all the right wing YouTubers too. Hinkle, I don't know what you are right there. Yeah, Yellow Brick Road. know, I mean, you could name some people too, and I invite y'all to have a talk with the trans community very soon about how we can. This community is under attack right now, like never before, and we really need to, you know, celebrate this
Yeah.
community and make sure that this community gets taken care of. And I know that y'all stare people to watch right now. Jose Vega, I know planning on running in the future. They're trying to make you the new voice for New York, right? Brianna Joy Gray, you from New York, right? Yeah, I don't know who's in Oregon right now, but
Mm.
rep in New York right now, I'm gonna say that the trans community out here, I'm gonna try to get them all fired up too. I'm also trying to get them to run once again, right? Yeah, you cannot trust. I agree with him in this sense. On, but why do we move the electoral system? Malcolm X said the ballot or the vote. The fact of the matter is that you cannot trust someone else to have the same priorities as you. If they're
Hmm.
not trans, okay, I'm not trans, okay? If you're
Hmm.
not trans, the fact of the matter is that in the end they will have different perspectives and priorities, and they're right to do.
Right.
That's right for them. You get what I mean? So you
Right.
have to make sure that you step into the position and you have to get in there. So right now we're helping people run for office, county committee. We have free resources. We provide the voter list. We help you do the petitioning, all the paperwork lined up for you. I got voter registration cards right here to help you get people to vote for you. That petitions I'll help you set up and all of that. And if y'all are in office, it's going to be a lot harder people to mess with y'all. And that's how you can shore up your not. And after the revolution happens, right, we got to, in order to work the system, you got to be able to be understanding how governments or how I wouldn't say management, or how to understand how to work within these networks, right? Yeah, for the
Hmm.
future. So that's I have my own private network where it's called the Activist Network. Y'all could just get on there. You don't have to worry about censorship. You know what I mean? It's, or you guys could make your own. I can show you how to do that too.
Yeah.
So what's the next are you in contact with any activist groups in Oregon?
Um, I'm connected with certain individuals who are involved in the community. One right now is um, taken a step back to focus on her mental health at the moment. But she is actively involved in the the Antifa community. She's a Marxist Leninist. She was formerly an anarchist, but now a Marxist Leninist, and she is. But been involved in a lot of the protests that were out here in Portland. My partner actually is a anarcho-communist that is involved um, and was actually involved in the protests in 2020. Was out there on the front lines, against Homeland Security and Portland police. Um, and then there's a another person that I'm familiar with on Twitter, Redwood PDX. Often will be posting a lot of stuff, trying to engage the community and get people out, to protest and, essentially stand up for, everybody's, equal and human rights. So, these are people that the problem is that it's just like I said, a very small group, like a few people here and there. But what we need more activists in the Portland community to be a lot more vocal, and so that we can all kind of come together, because we are dealing, one of the biggest people that we have right now that has kind of been in our way has been people like Andy No, who have been freaking um, that have been sidelining with people like the Proud Boys and stuff like that, and who have been ardently transphobic online. And we need people to basically come together and stand up and say, hey, we are we are bigger than you know we are big we have more people than those that spew hate, and we're here to basically stand for our friends, stand for our family, stand stand as allies, and stand for ourselves, essentially, because I know that at the end that there's plenty of people out there, plenty of activists that are trans, but one of the biggest issues is we need more people from these communities to stand up um, for their own rights, because allies can only stand, or, there's only
It's
so
not their
many
job.
allies that
It's
can
not their
stand up.
job to help. You have to help yourself.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
yeah,
in order to help help you, we have to help, you
yeah.
have to learn to help yourself as well.
And
Because if
also,
we,
just like myself, right? Because trans people are on the bottom, because we are
mm,
the ones who are the least respected, right? We have to work with you, right? Yes, so we're going to be great allies because we need your cooperation. So if you
yeah,
want a community that's going to work hard for you, I would look for the trans community, I would look for Asian Americans, I would look for people who are disabled, I would look for people that are poor. And I would get at them. They're your best ally because a friend
yeah,
in need is a friend indeed. So let's go. You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yo, what?
Oh.
Share your social media. You said Red Pagan. What's your You have a YouTube channel? Do you do on other things? Share your stuff. Go ahead.
So you can follow me on Twitter at ComradeRedPagan. You can I'm also on TikTok under the same handle. I recently just got a YouTube handle for Comrade Red Pagan, so if anybody, so yeah, people can come check out the Red Pagan Corner channel, which is where I try to post weekly videos there. Sometimes there's an extra video or two that might get put out. Um, so yeah, usually some pretty good content, or me just babbling constantly. And then also I'm on I have redpagancorner.tumblr.com. And then I'm also on Facebook, Red Pagan Corner. I think I got all of them.
As someone who works with, I'm a guaranteed ally. I just want to put this officially to, maybe we'll just see if this towards the end of the interview right here. Oh, I have some other questions, but I don't want to just take it forever. But I think this was a good solid one right here. But definitely
Mhm.
DGL7 is a friend of the trans people, straight up. That's it. And I'm an ally, and that's what's up. I know there's a lot of people who have different ideas on that, whatever. I'm all right with you thinking the way you think. I ain't mad that you have your criticisms, whatever. But fact of the matter is that this community, there's some of the most overlooked. There's some of the most who are easiest to target, and they're the ones really who need the help. So, that's who I'm here to help, straight up. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming on my
please
show.
help.
Either, yeah, you know what I mean? Yo, I think you smell too. You know what I mean? That's why I'm helping other people. You know what I mean? As little
Yeah,
people
we gotta
helping the
help each
people,
other. So
yeah. Usually the little people help the people who's bigger, hoping for help back. That's unfortunately the way of the world. Yeah, the law of the weak is that you must be persecuted. Anyways,
unfortunately.
yeah. Hey man, yo, thanks for coming on, man. I really, I appreciate you so much. I look forward to watching some more of your content.